Hey y'all, it is your favorite nerdy girl here, Nerdygirlreviews, and we're back with another recap for Moon Knight, currently streaming on Disney Plus. If you'd like to see and hear the full commentary, keep me locked here on YouTube. If you're watching this on Instagram, click the link in bio. If you're watching this on IG Stories, click on the link. It'll link you back to my YouTube channel. I'm also available on TikTok under Nerdygirlreviews, and if you'd like to catch my other reviews and recaps, you can find me on Sofito for Your Soul. Let's get into it. Y'all digging the mask? This was hard work. This was a labor of love for my audience. I hope y'all enjoy this. Let's get into the Moon Knight review. Stay tuned. Alright, y'all, we're back. We're going to do a very clean face kind of look because I really want to do pay homage to this show. And again, our male lead is Mark, right? Mark / Stewart. And again, we're talking about like very plain Joe as it comes. And so also because I want to be careful not to get makeup on this this was a labor of love. This really was a labor of love putting it all together. I'm going to have to play back that intro just to make sure it didn't come out all crazy. But this, I mean, it was laborious. It was really a labor of love, but really fun to make. And I can't take the credit for this. I came across, I YouTubed, like all of us do. I YouTubed how to make this mask, and I will link down the video in the description box. I believe his name is Prop Boy or something like that. He came up with a really genius way of putting the Moon Knight mask together. And yes, okay, hold on a sec so you can see the big old reveal. It lights up. And so I'm very proud of it. Again, I can all the details, and you can get this mask, a standard mask, nearly in any Party City, anywhere they sell like cheapy costumes. It was more of a labor on my part because I couldn't find it in a nice matte white. His is a little more detail. The point of reference that I'm gonna cite down below in the description box. But I liked it the way it came out for me. And I had to spray paint it because I couldn't find it in white. And I still had some of these, like, this is foam kind of paper, and it's great. You can use it, you can find them in any arts and crafts store, or even like if you pertain to like a teacher's catalog. It's a nice foamy, it bends. So a lot of this is like crazy glued. You don't want to see the behind the scenes, but it looks really nice. And I think especially for this Halloween, if any kids are interested in dressing up as the famous Moon Knight, then you have a way of doing it and it won't break the bank. So I'm very proud of it in comparison, okay, because this is the second time I've gone into the Marvel universe. And I had done my WandaVision, which I feel like I'll go back to this, and I feel like I need to improve it because it's a big difference. But nonetheless, I made it work. I made this work with wigs, and yeah, and I had a big old hoodie. I'm rocking the blue because I feel like our main character likes like these earth tone, jewel tone colors. Whoever is the costumer for the show, bravo. It's just, again, we'll get into that in a sec, but I'm very proud of the mask, so I just wanted to make that a point in my review before we move on. Yay! This is the funniest thing.
It's actually much worse. Oh, Stephen, what the hell are we wearing? Don't know. She said I needed a suit. Yeah, the ceremonial arm.
That's just a quick soundbite of I think it's episode 2 of Summon the Suit. So yeah, we're up. Currently, there is already 4 episodes up, and there's only 6 episodes in this small set of episodes for this series. First of its kind, and I feel it very much mirrors like WandaVision, that you don't necessarily need to be immersed. Perhaps it is tailor made for people like myself that, again, we're familiar with certain characters, certain comic book characters that have been really known and beloved amongst audiences for decades. But not all of us are privy, or do we know all the information. So very much like WandaVision, that you didn't have to like know all the backstory. I mean, again, you can always cherry pick what you want to find out about every particular character, but in watching the first, at least I saw the first 2 episodes and I was hooked. Again, I don't shy away from admitting on this channel that I'm a big fan of Oscar Isaac. And I've reviewed his work too before on my channel. Scenes of a Marriage, from a Marriage, is also in my collection of videos, which I'll link somewhere here in the video or down below in the description box, which I really strongly suggest you watch that. What a talent he is. I feel like he honestly can't go wrong with any character. It's so believable. The vulnerability that he's portraying here for this particular character. And what a cast too. I mean, we have Ethan Hawke. Ethan Hawke, I've been a fan since before Sunrise. And to see him in this kind of space, I don't think I've ever would have thought of seeing him in this kind of like acting role, because it's always been very like dramatic or quirky or indie. So to see him play that we don't necessarily know, is he foe or friend? And we go back and forth with a lot of that concept in the storytelling, because we don't necessarily know what we're watching. At first you think you're kind of following the story and we're on board with one particular character, and then the script literally flips, and then you're like, okay, who's really the villain here? But he's doing a phenomenal job, and he plays Arthur Harrow. Also, F. Murray Abraham, who plays our moon god, Khonshu. If the name sounds familiar, I mean, for heaven's sake, Amadeus from back in the day. He was in Scarface. He's done so many characters just based on that, like his tone. He's like the Vincent Price, I guess, of our generation. And Vincent Price was Vincent Price. But he just has this way of enunciating that it's like, and so it's believable, like him coming across as the moon god. And Mark, who's played, and I think his other name is Stuart Mark, played by Oscar Isaac, is Khonshu's avatar. So a little backstory so you guys know what I'm talking about, because I'm sure a lot of people are like, huh? And you'll excuse me, it's Stephen Grant. I kept calling him Stuart. Sorry, it's Stephen. I'm new to this. Don't chew me apart. But based on Wikipedia, and this is a comic book that made its debut in August of 1975. It made its initial debut, first appearance of Werewolf by Night, issue number 32. So here's just a quick little information. It is later revealed Moon Knight has dissociative identity disorder, incorrectly referred to as schizophrenia. And I think it used to be labeled multiple personality disorder. And that the alters known as Grant and Lockley, and I think that's a third character. If you've been watching thus far, all 4 episodes, we are always met with some kind of mirror image, and it's split between 3. So we've met 2 characters thus far, which is Stuart. I keep calling him Stuart. Steven. who are our nerd, our bookworm, who have been working in a museum, but he's working in the gift shop. At least in our series, it really does differ from the comic book. If you look up the information, it's two widely perspectives. But it makes him, I think, approachable and humble, and keeping him as just, low pay, kind of a nerd that's aspiring. He wants to be a tour guide. He is knowledgeable, and he knows there certainly enough history, especially Egyptian history. But they don't. I don't know. They don't either like see him in that light or don't feel that he's fully confident. So a lot of people unfortunately treat him like a doormat, and I think that's where this different personality, which is the complete opposition, juxtaposition of what Steven is, which is our Mark character, who kicks ass, does not care about anyone's feelings, moves forward. I mean, he has feelings. Don't get me wrong. I mean, for heaven's sake, he was married. He's married. This person is married to a whole different other person. But Steven, I don't know how Steven bubbled up into his life. He's basically kind of like a spy, living his life like a spy or some espionage or something, because he has like multiple passports and, again, does is under the influence of Khonshu, because again he's Khonshu's avatar, and although he isn't of supernatural abilities, the suit, that's why I put the clip, summon the suit, because the suit is like a layer of protection, and most of his ability comes from prior knowledge of being like maybe in the army, being missionary, that he knows how to defend himself well. But the suit is like this layer of like protection, because there's one particular episode where he is like speared and he is still manages to walk away from that. And I think also it's like bulletproof. There are so many action scenes in this series, very reminiscent of like The Mummy. Remember The Mummy from back in the day? Like, I think it was like 1999. Brendan Fraser was the lead, and then we had Rachel Weisz, who played his love interest and then eventually wife, because they went to go and franchise, right? Like, there were like several mummies, and then the Scorpion King and all that. And I love it. I love all that. Anything that conjures up history and fiction together is just like like eating a nice slice of pie. And Rachel Weisz, yes, she plays Evelyn. And in the series, the wife's name isn't Evelyn, I think it's Layla, but she's very reminiscent of Evelyn from The Mummy. Like, even down to like with the first episode, there's mention of a scarab. I think it's called Scarab. And I remember distinctly because that was one of like the bejeweled these amulets that they were after in the first movie, The Mummy, or was it the second one? And it flew, and it gave me flashbacks when I was seeing the first episode, because our Mark character blacks out when Steven blacks out. Steven blacks out, and it's presumed that he sleepwalks, so that's why he keeps like himself chained up to his bed, and he even like lays out sand so he knows he hasn't really like gotten up. He puts like a layer of tape on his door to make sure that he hasn't gotten up, because he thinks like he could be hurting himself or others. And but when he blacks out, Mark takes over, and Mark, again, like, he's a fighting machine. So Steven blacks out to the point where he was supposed to go on a date, and he blacked out, and he ends up in some countryside. And the scarab is like this like bejeweled gilded thing, and it flies, and it's like almost like a compass, and it lets you know like where certain things are or mummifications are. Very interesting. And again, it's like layered in history. So here's a little bit of backstory of what a scarab. Scarab, Latin. It's Latin. In ancient Egyptian religion, important symbol in the form of the dung beetle, which lays its eggs in dung balls fashioned through rolling. This beetle was associated with the divine manifestation of the early morning sun. Khepri, or Khepri, whose name was written with the scarab hieroglyph, and who was believed to roll the disk of the morning sun over the eastern horizon at daybreak. Since the scarab hieroglyph, Kepler, refers variously to the ideas of existence, manifestation, development, growth, and effectiveness, the beetle itself was a favorite form used for amulets in all periods of Egyptian history. Scarabs of various materials glazed, and it was an important class of Egyptian antiques. Such objects usually have the bases inscribed or decorated with designs. Um, and again, they were buried with like their most prestigious royalty, and in the process of the mummification. Hence, why it's so important, and why our characters are so after that. Especially Khonshu, he doesn't want for Ethan's character Arthur to have possession of it, but he does. And because Khonshu is the moon god, he is able to navigate and control basically the movement of the moon. And there's also love interests here. Like there's another goddess, which I think she is, I didn't catch the name, but I think she's the goddess of art and music. And I think there was some kind of form of romance that I feel like they might revisit that. I hope, because there's only 2 more episodes left. Um, I just wanted to make a point to that, and also of the crescent moon. And that's why in his costume is shaped the way it is. And I've made mention of the crescent, and also in another review for Emily in Paris, how important the crescent is. The crescent is Arabic, political, military, and religious emblem of the Byzantine and Turkish empires, and later and more generally of all Islamic countries. The moon in its first quarter was a religious symbol for earliest of times and figured, for example, in the worship of the Near Eastern goddess Astarte. Later it became the symbol of the Byzantine Empire, supposedly because the sudden appearance of the moon saved the city of Byzantine, Constantinople, from a surprise attack. It once was thought that the Ottoman Turks adopted the crescent for their own flags after capturing Constantinople in 1453, but in fact they had been using the symbol for at least a century before that, for it appeared on the standards of the infantry under Sultan Orhan. In that case, however, the crescent may have been different origin, formed by the base to base conjunction of 2 claws and horns. Whatever its origin, the crescent became closely associated with the Ottoman Empire. Its successor states that the world of Islam in general, it may be seen today as the national flags of many countries in which Islam is a predominant, including Algeria, Malaysia, Tanzania, Turkey. It's something. In medieval European heraldry, the crescent was originally a mark of great honor adopted by many returned crusaders, particularly in France. Again, you see the connection. So I've always said the crescent, the croissant. Remember? So and there's also mention of that kind of backstory in Bram Stoker's Dracula. So if you haven't seen that movie, please do. And again, I just love how history meets fiction, because it entertains, it also educates, and that's what I'm getting. I feel like I'm getting from this series. It's so fun, and especially the last episode, which is entitled "The Tomb," where Khonshu goes missing because again he was not to make his presence known, especially amongst the living, and he is able to kind of like rotate time in some kind of format of like time travel, and the other gods find out, and now he's ousted, so now he's not present in Mark's life. They're still on the hunt of, I think, some that form of compass, or finding a particular statuette, and you see like the mummification, the maps, the stars, how they're all interconnected. So Layla, which is Mark's wife, they're in this tomb and trying to figure things out. But now, because Mark doesn't have the protection of Khonshu, he's shot. He's shot by our villainous character of Arthur. And so, and Layla is played by May Kalamway. Sorry, again, I always butcher names. But I think she's like new to the scene. I don't know a lot of all of her, film work, but they do great pairing as, husband and wife, Oscar and May. Just because they have like really intense scenes, and when Mark is shot, you can see like, her eyes like well up with tears, and now when he blacks out, he wakes up in what we're led to believe like a mental institution, and somehow, and we see our Arthur, played by Ethan Hawke, who's like his therapist. So here's where I love that they're like, it feels like a webbing that we don't necessarily have a grasp on because we don't know what we're watching. Is Mark actually, has he been shot? Are Mark's do Stephen has been shot, or has he imagined all of this? Also, we see like a video cassette that Arthur, his therapist, kind of shoves out and says like, "I think you're very influenced by this movie," which has a very reminiscent of Indiana Jones, and so which I love because it's playing with all the nostalgic gems of our heyday, right? 80s babies, and and then we don't know what we're looking at. He looks like he's having a psychotic episode, and as Steven, and Steven, again, this is how we know the difference between Mark and Steven, because Steven has this like British accent, Mark has an American accent. So Steven's the one that's present, and then as he tries to escape, then we see Mark and Steven, and yet the way they kind of they break out of these tombs that look like traditional Egyptian tombs, and then there's a third tomb that's like rattling, but it's never open. We also see Layla, and she also looks like she's a patient at this asylum. And then at the very end, we're met with this other god that looks like a rhino